Civil society group Food Sovereignty Ghana wants government to engage the public more on the issue. And in international news, Nigerian military says bad phone lines prevented soldiers from responding to an attack on a school on Tuesday that killed nearly 60 people. All these plus the latest in business and showbiz coming up in the next hour. The details now. The Ministry of Health has given the board and chief executive of the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital a 2-week ultimatum to account for the corpses of 5 stillborn babies delivered at the hospital on the night of February 5th. The Ministry of Health at a press conference has also asked the midwife and doctor that attended to Suwaiba to proceed on leave for investigations into their professional conduct to begin. Yafosu Ajemfi was at the press conference and reports.
On February 6th, news broke about a missing baby at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital. The family of the alleged stillborn demanded for the body of the baby after explanations from officials at the hospital did not add up. Just few weeks after several media reports on the missing baby of Suwaiba, mother of the stillborn, the Ministry of Health set up a committee to investigate the matter. The committee was tasked to submit a report that would strengthen the operation at the maternity wards in the various hospitals. The findings of the committee revealed that there was a communication gap between the medical doctor and the midwife that attended to Suwaiba, the aggrieved woman.
The doctor recorded the presence of a fetal heart of 142 beats per minute, which in medical term is considered normal for the baby. But the midwife could not establish a fetal heartbeat. During the 5-hour stay on the labor ward, the midwife constantly recorded no heartbeat. Meanwhile, before she delivered the baby, the doctor came the second time to examine her. And the doctor, for the second time, recorded a fetal beat that indicated that the baby was alive in the womb. But then the committee found out that between the doctor and the midwife, there was no communication.
In a bid to unravel the mystery behind the missing baby, the ministry has referred the doctor and the nurse to the disciplinary committees of the Ghana Nurses and Midwifery Council and the Dental and Medical Council for further interrogation.
We think that 16 deliveries, 5 stillbirths, that means 30% of mortality is not acceptable. So what we have done, we have written to the CEO of Komfo-Anokye Hospital, the board and members of Komfo-Anokye Hospital, that they should account for 5 stillborn babies.
Going forward, the ministry has assured of implementing sanctions and recommendations that would come up after the investigations. It notes it would also draw up policies and set up a call center to address various complaints by patients. Yafosu Ajemfi, Joy News, Accra.
Meanwhile, 7 people have been charged for stealing and conspiracy to steal by the Ashanti Regional Investigation Department (CID) in connection with a missing baby at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital. According to the Regional Police PRO ASP Mohammed Tanko, a docket has been sent to the Attorney General's Department for perusal and advice. Meanwhile, the 4 people who were arrested and remanded for storming the hospital to demand for the body of the baby have also been granted bail with 3 sureties. They would reappear in court on the 14th of March. And President John Dramani Mahama said he does not endorse the use of brutal force against operators of illegal mining, a move government has employed to deal with the menace. Speaking at a Durbar of Chiefs and People at Dunkwa on Ofing after he passed through one of many Galamsey sites in the Dinshra traditional area, President Mahama said the Galamsey Task Force will soon begin a reclamation exercise which is part of a livelihood improvement program to create alternative jobs for persons engaged in Galamsey and also to reclaim lost lands. He said government is awaiting some financial assistance from the World Bank to roll out the program. Meanwhile, the president has promised cocoa farmers to expect soon an increase in cocoa prices and payment of their bonuses, which have not been paid for some time. He explained the non-payment was due to stagnation of prices of the commodity on the world market, which is now improving. He said the Cocoa Board has been tasked to observe due diligence with the distribution of chemicals for mass spraying exercises, which are allegedly mostly misappropriated. The Vice President of the National Association of Graduate Teachers has expressed doubt at the progressive free senior high school education policy announced by President John Mahama. He said he's unsure that move will add any value to second cycle education in the country. According to him, the education sector is already challenged with issues which have not been addressed and stresses this will negatively affect the quality of education in the country.
John Mahama, in his State of the Nation address to Parliament on Tuesday, revived the controversial free SHS education policy with a promise to progressively implement the policy in the 2015-2016 academic year. This assurance, according to the Vice President of NAGRAT, is not feasible but will only add up to the already existing challenges facing the education sector.
We all know the status or the state of our SAITO or our basic schools. But do we want to send the secondary schools also to that level? We have history behind us. Is government actually sending resources to even the basic public schools that we have? That's why I mentioned capitation. I mentioned Get Fund. I mentioned the problem with the 3 northern regions. If these ones are even in arrears, what will happen? We are going to have about 750 public senior high schools nationwide. And are we going to be able to consistently and regularly send the resources to those schools?
He, however, called on government to engage stakeholders in the education sector before its implementation.
I will suggest that, yes, we recognize the good intention of government. But can we subject this good intention to more scrutiny and discussion by various stakeholders, by various researchers in education, so that we can come up with a plan that will be acceptable to all?
Do we even have... Meanwhile, the National Association of Graduate Teachers is also calling on government to put in place the deprived area teacher allowance, which is an incentive for teachers in deprived communities.
An Accra High Court has ordered the Daily Guide newspaper to pay 250,000 Ghana cedis in damages to the General Secretary of the ruling National Democratic Congress, Johnson Esiedun Ketia. The damages were awarded in a defamation suit brought against the paper by the NDC General Secretary. The newspaper had reported about 3 years ago that Johnson Esiedun Ketia used his position as a member of the board of directors of the Bui Power Authority to divert building materials for his personal building project, an accusation the NDC General Secretary denied.
When you accuse me of criminality, that one, any politician who will just sit idly by to be accused of criminality is damaging himself. So that one, if you bring yourself, we will deal with it. So that was why I went to court. So the court awarded damages to the tune of 250,000 Ghana cedis, and then cost of 15,000 Ghana cedis.
When asked what you do with the money, This was his response.
The intention is just to go to court and get judgment and not to pursue the claims. I am promising you that I will pursue my rights to the hilt. I will take the money. The money will not go to any charity. I will take the money and build a house and write in front of that house, Kwasia Binti.
According to John Sasidun Ketia, the next court case in which he is seeking answers to is a statement made by the aspiring national chairman of the NPP, Fred Owari. Fred Owari is alleged to have said during a press conference that Sasidun Ketia, being a member of the Bui Power Authority Board, used his position to supply cement blocks to the company, thus constituting conflict of interest, an accusation he denies. In another development, Johnson Sasidun Ketia has defended President Mahama's progressive free SHS policy, which is to be implemented in the 2015-2016 academic year. Sasidun Ketia denies suggestions that the president's new policy was the idea of the 2012 presidential candidate of the NPP, rather indicating that President Mahama was simply enforcing a provision enshrined in Ghana's 1992 constitution.
Now we came to 2012 elections, and then MPP took this Article 25B and decided to promise Ghanaians that they would introduce free senior high school education immediately. Our response was that we are working according to the 1992 Constitution, and so we lifted the provisions of the 1992 Constitutions into our manifesto before adding other things that we thought we should be doing.
Sasidun Ketia also defended government position to scrap allowances for teacher trainees, noting the move has yielded some very positive results. According to him, since the announcement was made, there has been an increase in the number of admissions to teacher trainee colleges this year, from 8,000 to 15,000.
The Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection has responded to a summons by the Speaker of Parliament to furnish the House with information on how to alleviate the plight of female head porters. The Member of Parliament for Oforikrom recently delivered a statement urging the House to find solutions to the plight of the porters, popularly known as Kayaye.
When Parliament recently resumed sitting, the Member of Parliament for Oforikrom, Elizabeth Ajiman, called on the House to be proactive in tackling the plight of the Kayaye. This led to the Speaker inviting the Gender, Children and Social Protection Minister to the House to help members deliberate ways of halting the perennial rural-urban migration which brings the girls to Accra. Making a statement on the floor, Nana Oyelitha said the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty Program, or LEAP, will go a long way to solve the problem. The Speaker then directed the Gender and Children's Committee of the House to study the Minister's report and report later to the House.
The Minister's statement be made available and distributed to all members of this august House so that we'll have the opportunity of reading through it in detail. At the appropriate time, when the report is submitted to this House, we'll have the opportunity to have in-depth discussions when members will be able to make their contributions.
But the member for Oforikrom, whose comments led to the Minister's summons, was unhappy with both the Minister's response and the Speaker's direction.
I've been there, I've been chasing this minister, only God knows. I've been there about 6 times. I never had the opportunity to meet her. I was always told she's not there. So I have not her number. I called her, she didn't respond. I sent a text message. She responded that that very day evening around 6 p.m. she will call me and we discuss it. And never, she didn't call me. I went there. I even sent a copy of the CDs I made out of these programs I did in my constituency, and she never responded to me that she even had the cassette or what. I sent it to her special assistant in the office. So this is an opportune time that I should have said something to the minister or even gotten the opportunity to speak to her on this issue. But look at what has happened. Nobody was allowed to ask questions, so I don't even know what else to do. I think I'm very much disappointed.
The House was adjourned to Friday, February 28.
Meanwhile, some members of parliament have been offering solutions which they believe will halt the migration of girls from particularly the northern parts of the country to work as headquarters in Accra, while some believe the issue can be dealt with through proper institutional arrangements. Others think the decision lies with members of parliament and other prominent personalities from the north to educate the constituents on the need for education.
You see, I was once a KA myself. Okay, and I'm proud to say it. And during those times when I was doing the job, I had always said to myself, I want to get education. Why is it that government over and over has stuck to this decision that the three northern regions should have free education, and yet they are not taking advantage of it? You have free education, and yet you leave this valuable thing and you come to the south to carry people's goods. What sense in it? So the question is, who can get these people out of the street to go back? It is their own northern folks who, by the grace of God, you can see them scattered all over the country. Some of them are chief executive officers, some of them are MPs, some of them are presidents, name it.
We are here in Parliament as a body. We are not here in Parliament because we are northerners. And anybody who is also here has a responsibility to roll out policies and programs that will benefit every Ghanaian. And so if people say that northerners, executives, the president is coming from the north, and so we should go down up to the north and educate the people for them not to drift into the south, it is not the best for people to think that way. We are all Ghanaians, and so any Ghanaian who has the responsibility to go up north to ensure that the right thing is done, that better life is provided to our people, they should do so.
If conditions there are so bad and people are migrating, why don't we also create a proper environment here, very conducive environment here, so that they will be comfortable here? The depletion of the people from the north, what it means is that we will have a lot more resources in terms of land for agriculture. Then businessmen can locate to that place. There's no way any force or any small incentives can make them go. My worry is that, let's look at SADA. All the top guys in SADA come from the north. And if they come from the north and there are funds available, all of us are paying, both from the south and north. We are going to pay for those loans to better the conditions in the north. And then this money is going to JIDA and all those things that you hear. Then what are we doing to these people? They will continue to migrate until we set up in our development agenda.
Well, you're still watching Joy News on Multi-TV, and we're also live on ABN Sky channel 290. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us. Welcome back. We'll still stay in Parliament for a while. The minority is asking government to pay more for the cocoa beans it buys from local farmers. Cocoa farmers are currently paid 3,392 Ghana cedis per metric ton.
The current price amounts to 46% of what it costs a metric ton of cocoa, another free on board price, which stands at a little over 7,000 Ghana cedis. Government had stated it anticipates paying farmers a minimum of 70% of that amount for their production. But the minority is demanding 50% payment of the free on-board price.
You know how many farmers, cocoa farmers are in Ghana, here in Ghana? 835,000 at the last count. So if a group of 6,000 have come together and are being held by an external agency, not our local, and our government refuses to pay what is they are entitled, it shows you how serious the situation is.
They also said the withdrawal of the mass spraying has also compounded the plight of the cocoa farmers. But some majority MPs disagreed.
I am prepared to call anybody who says that the mass spraying exercise has been cancelled as a liar. It's a palpable falsehood, it's ongoing, and I mean, to the best of my knowledge, government is going to put in more effort in 2014. So if they don't have anything to say, with the greatest deal of respect, as far as cocoa is concerned, they should keep quiet, they should shut up.
The majority spokesperson on Agric and the chairman of the Food and Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee also disagreed with some of the facts.
It's not the best to accuse governments of failing when really he knows that not all those services are being withdrawn from cocoa production. And even when all the services are provided, once the weather fails us, we are certainly going to have a drop in yields. So these are the issues that we might be looking at and trying to find solutions rather than play the blame game. Because even when his desired government was in power, it never happened that cocoa yields rose entirely at every time.
The minority also told the press that Ghanaian farmers will continue to struggle with their basic needs if the prices of the beans does not change due to the current level of the depreciation of the cedi against the dollar.
In other stories, the Ghana Trade and Livelihood Coalition, GTLC, has acquired 100 acres of land each at Tongobio and Yunduri in the Talensi district of the Upper East region to grow a total of 5,000 share trees. The move is geared towards enhancing the cultivation, production and marketing of quality share nuts and share butter in the district. Albert Sori has more.
In order to involve all stakeholders in the project, a participatory share market development meeting was held at the Talensi District Assembly in Tongo. Leaders of women's organizations, opinion leaders and policy makers attended the meeting. Coordinator for the Ghana Trade and Livelihoods Coalition, Ibrahim Akabila, gave highlights of what the project entailed.
Talensi District. Of course, we want to later on expand it to other districts in the 3 northern regions. But it follows a number of years of research and studies to be able to understand exactly what is happening. We found out that there is a whole lot of economic dependence of shea nuts from the 3 northern regions. And then we sort of also assessed the situation of the tree in the 3 northern region and realized that there was the issue of the depletion. What we want to do is to avoid that, and it includes also using irrigation. And then, of course, also having the use of fertilizers.
He said bushfires in the Talensi district are the major threats to the project, but there are major steps in place to sustain it. Coordinator of the Talensi Area Women's Development Project, Doris Achariba, spoke to Joy News after participating in the meeting.
You can measure twice the bowl and say that is the money, that is the bowl, and they will pay you 10 cedis. When they are going to sell it, they will sell it twice what the product, what the woman have bought from the woman. And even when the middlemen come to buy the nuts from the women, they weigh it. They can buy 2 bags, and then they will get 3 bags from it. So you see that the women, they rather suffer for nothing.
And civil society group the Food Sovereignty Ghana is calling on government to engage members of the public in the discussion of genetically modified foods and seeds in the country. According to its vice chairman, the intended introduction of GMOs has dire consequences on the economy, and Ghanaians must be educated to understand the concept.
Food Sovereignty Ghana for the past few months has embarked on a series of demonstrations expressing their displeasure at the intended introduction of GMO foods and seeds into the country. According to them, its introduction will deprive Ghanaians of their means of livelihood, since government would have to import all seeds instead of local seed growers. Deputy chairman of the group said attempts to reach stakeholders to deliberate on the impact of GMOs on the economy and lives proved futile.
We are also trying very much to involve the parliamentarians to let them understand what the implications of this, Plant Breeders Bill and the Biosafety Act are. But unfortunately, we are not getting their cooperation, and this is what we find very worrying. That in spite of the many issues we have raised, in spite of the understanding that has been brought to the discussion that we are having in the country today, not much is being done to give necessary attention to the issues. And this is where we believe that the Speaker of Parliament's directive has not been obeyed. And it's very unfortunate.
He added, Ghanaian farmers will be poorer since they would have to rely on patent seeds, which can only be used once and have no documented evidence of high yields.
Ghanaian farmers are also asking that, where do they stand in this whole thing? Is this whole thing of green revolution going to benefit some elite farmers who are doing, some form of farming which is only going to benefit multinational, food companies, or it is going to benefit local people in Ghana who are feeding on indigenous seeds or indigenous food? It must be protected. Those indigenous seeds must be given the support is needed. The attempt at introducing uniform varieties which cut across the globe, ignoring varieties that are forming part of our culture, our heritage, it's a very, very dangerous development, and we must protect it. We must protest against that attempt. It is very important.
Meanwhile, the group is organizing a 2-day capacity building and skills sharing workshop on biosafety seed laws, intellectual property, and farmers' rights towards food sovereignty.
Lands and Natural Resources Minister has applauded the Asante for the introduction of the land documentation project for professional land administration in the region. Under the documentation project, 6 months moratorium was granted to landowners and developers to document their lands at a nominal fee. A total of about 16,000 property owners have benefited from the project. A report by Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin.
Speaking at the 37-member reconstituted Ashanti Regional Lands Commission in Kumasi, the minister said the encroachment of public lands has the potential of compromising the execution of planned government programs. Alhaji Nusa Husseini appealed to the members to live up to expectation and serve as liaison between the Lands Commission and the assemblies in implementing lands administration reforms. He advised them to tackle the encroachment of public lands and ensure that development of lands are compatible with the regional development framework.
The numerous encroachments on public lands within the metropolis and in the other districts, which has the potential to compromise the execution of planned government development programs. I need not say much about this. All of you are witnesses to the recent demolitions that have taken place in this country. As I was coming here, I met representatives of the Action Aid Group, or World Vision, and they said in no uncertain terms that mankind, and particularly Ghana, and particularly this exercise that we are undertaking this morning, offers us an opportunity to plan the use of our lands.
The commission will serve a 4-year term, and their mandate will be to promote judicious use of land and maintenance of a sound ecosystem.
And still on lands, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Alhaji Nusa Husseini, has condemned the outright sale of large tracts of land, especially to non-Ghanaians for speculative purposes, while calling on the Lands Commission to beef up and do a lot towards averting illegal acquisition of lands that lead to the issue of numerous demolitions in the country. The minister was speaking during the inauguration of members of the Western Regional Lands Commission, which took place in Sekondi. A report by regional correspondent William Benjamin Peters.
The chairman of the commission, Benjamin Yao Semreku, with the support of 29 members, took the oath of allegiance, secrecy and of office administered by the supervising High Court Judge for Sekondi, His Lordship Justice Edward Asante. They were given certificates to affirm their membership. The appointment of members for the various regional lands commission is in conformity to Article 261 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, aimed at achieving efficiency in land administration and management in Ghana. The Western Regional Minister Ebenezer Kojo Teyado, in a welcome address, spoke on the various land litigations in the Western region as a result of the expansion of communities and projects such as the port, plantations and oil find.
They have a lot of issues with families, with schools, surrounding or on whose land they conduct their business. As a result of expansion, as a result of growth in these rural communities, they are making demands on land to develop
Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Alhaji Nusaf Hussaini said the efficiency with which they will discharge their duties will attest to their effectiveness. He also condemned the outright sale of large tracts of land, especially to non-Ghanaians for speculative purposes, whilst calling on the Lands Commission to be up and doing towards averting illegal acquisition of lands that lead to the issue of numerous demolitions in the country.
I'm informed that the renewed interest in land in the region has brought about general indiscipline in the land market, such as multiple sales of land and racketeering. This situation has resulted in numerous litigations pending at the various courts in the region. In all these situations, the Land Commission is found in the center and sometimes accused of malfeasance as they strenuously search for solutions to the problems.
The chairman, Benjamin Yao Semreku, on behalf of the members, pledged to ensure hard work, discipline and commitment to ensure the realization of the objectives of the Lands Commission.
Well, staff of the various agencies at the Ghana-Togo border at Aflao have been urged to be firm and stem smuggling and the movement of suspicious persons in and out of the country. Volta Regional Minister Joseph Nilaya Fotiagbo made the call during a familiarization tour of the Ghana-Togo border at Aflao.
The regional minister expressed concern about the huge loss of revenue to the state through tax evasion, under declaration and acts of collusion on the parts of customs officials who assist smugglers in their illegal activities.
Begging you, we are sacrificing as ministers, running up and down, driving Accra, up and down, up and down. I wasn't born in the Volta region. I was born in Accra. And I was brought from Accra to be the regional minister here. But I see myself as a Voltarian. Quickly I have tuned my body, changed my mind, everything. And I see myself as a Voltarian. I don't care about what is going on in Accra. This is where I find myself. Whatever I can do. You see, people who are natural, who do things naturally, behave this way. Because I'm not looking at my interest. If it is my mother who is involved in a robbery or in a crime, she must be dealt with.
During a courtesy call on Togbi Amenyafiti the Fifth, Paramount Chief of Aflao, he explained that the poor nature of road networks in the Ketu South municipality is a contributory factor to criminal activities in the area. He appealed for the completion of the Aflao Border Complex project, started in 1972, to facelift the border lines and provide accommodation for border personnel. The regional minister and his team also inspected an 8-kilometer railway constructed by Diamond Cement in Aflao to transport raw materials from Togo Harbour to the factory. Nilaya Futiagu was accompanied by his deputy Francis Ganyaglo and regional security heads. Komlado's report for Joy News.
News just coming in. Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association, GOSPA, has threatened another industrial strike next week if government fails to implement reports that was released in June 2013. The report recommended that GOSPA should be paid the appropriate conversion difference. Interim market premiums should be scrapped off with immediate effect, among others. Chairman of the association, Stephen Korkwe, says the recommendations in the report must be implemented with urgency and sensitivity for the lives of patients. According to GOSPA, government's failure to implement the recommendations after 8 months defeats the purpose of setting up the committee. At a press conference, the association demands the president, as a matter of urgency, to take steps to implement these recommendations. While you're still watching Joy News live on Multi TV, we're also live on ABN Sky Channel 290 in London. We'll be right back with business with Abigail Adumako Enchi.
course, here is where we update you in the world of business, and my name is Abigail Adomakuenchi. Now, the Africa Center for Energy Policy is asking mining companies to stop blackmailing government with threats of laying off workers, among others, to avoid payment of taxes on their profits. The center maintains Ghana is losing revenue with the current hold on windfall taxes and is calling on government to rescind that decision, as all sectors in the extractive industry pay taxes on their profits. After the fall in global gold prices coupled with threats from mining firms to lay off workers due to financial constraints, decided to put on hold the collection of windfall taxes from these firms. But the Africa Center for Energy Policy believes the argument of mining companies is not strong enough, adding that it is a ploy to blackmail government.
They are putting pressure on government. They are going to lay off workers. They are going to move their investment out of Ghana. You see, this is blackmail, because they have succeeded in making government suspend the introduction of the windfall taxes with the reason that gold prices are falling, they are not making profits. But you see, when we talk about windfall taxes are charged on supernormal profits. And so if a mining company is not making supernormal profit, the mining company has no business getting worried about the introduction of windfall taxes. It is only when they make supernormal profit that the state will have to tax that extra profit. And so that blackmail, which has pushed our government to suspend the introduction of the windfall taxes, is not acceptable at all. And therefore, government must reconsider its decision. Ghanaians will not forgive the government if the government give in to the mining companies who have exploited us for years.
He says mining firms are taking advantage of the loopholes in the tax regime, and therefore there was the need to block leakages. ASEP in this regard brought together tax experts across Africa to discuss issues of resource taxes, capital flight and illicit financial flows from Africa's extractive industries. According to the experts, one of the major obstacles to the development of the continent is the massive loss of revenues from the extractive industries through corruption, tax evasion and other forms of illicit financial flows.
There is no gain in saying that illicit financial outflows through tax avoidance and tax evasion poses a serious threat to Africa's economic stability and transformation. The systemic nature of these practices requires international cooperation and a concerted global action. The fight against tax evasion and avoidance in the extractive sectors requires a double-edged sword. African citizens should demand the highest standards of propriety and disclosure from their governments, and as well as citizens in the developed world or rich countries should also demand the same standards from their companies.
Dr. Kojobuzia also called for stiffer sanctions on companies that abuse transfer pricing and build human, financial and technical capacity to monitor such acts. We'll still stay on taxes, and tax experts have called for the revision of the Free Zones Act 1995 that allows 100% tax exemptions for companies within it. They want such incentives to be moderate and controlled, as some companies within the free zones are abusing the exemptions, causing financial losses to the state. The Free Zones Act 1995 ensures that all companies within it, mostly export companies, do not pay income taxes on their profits to boost the competitiveness of exports and encourage investments in the country. Free zone companies which hitherto were not allowed to sell their produce on the local market, however, have a period of 10 years to enjoy these tax incentives and are expected to pay 8% income tax afterwards. Some companies, however, fold up after 9 years and form similar companies under the free zones to continue enjoying 100% tax exemptions on their profits. Tax experts, however, want the act revised owing to the numerous abuses.
Some investors will come into the country. They are granted tax holidays. After the tax holidays, they fold up and then end up in another country. And so we realize that over the years, we've not really benefited from them, because apart from the tax holidays, they are allowed to repatriate their profits. So in the end, they fold up and go, and so the country loses. There have been some abuses, some recorded abuses. And so based on that precedent, the government will have to take a second look and the incentives given to the free zones.
Government, meanwhile, says it is progressively working on the act and has already allowed 30% of products of these companies onto the local market, but says they pay corporate taxes on them.
If they concentrated on all the raw materials which are exempted for export and there are no leakages into the local economy, then the concept works very well. In Ghana, we have gone further in allowing them to put on the local market 30% of their, no more than 30%. So if they turn around in getting the incentives and they are putting more than 30%, then it is an abuse. Those who don't abide by the law, we must find ways of reaching them. Right now, we are doing an audit, and so is GRA, of all the free zone, and then we'll be checking through their accounts to make sure the bad notes are dealt with, but the good ones must continue if they show that they haven't infringed any law.
Meanwhile, the West African Union of Tax Institutes, WAUTI, in their third annual tax conference, assembled tax practitioners and administrators in the sub-region to discuss pertinent tax issues, including ways of controlling tax exemptions. WAUTI is also set to sign a memorandum of understanding with ECOWAS to harmonize tariffs in the sub-region.
Away from taxation, we'll go to Abosokan, where auto part dealers are asking the central bank to review the withdrawal of dollars for travel purposes from $10,000 to about $50,000. The dealers contend the new amount is not enough for their imports and have therefore displayed red bands on their shops to register their protest.
At Abosokan, the hub of auto parts sale, the use of foreign currency in trading remains crucial. Traders here have had to convert their cedis to dollars to import these parts of vehicles they say are expensive. But the recent Forex regulations by the central bank calling for all dollar withdrawals to cease except for $10,000 only for traveling purposes has thrown the auto part dealers into a state of despair.
$dollar account no ababe deposit dollars na se dru bra yes o kokwan so no hia ska o de be kokwan so na mo ka se mo man cedis ya in this case ni ska be no fa kokwan so e na 10,000 ne kura o mo kan ye mpo no nia eye wire ma ha adwen kakra ne se e no kura mpo no mo so mo de baake se je o de document a kire se u tu kwan ansa na ya ma 10,000 na sa 10,000 de importer o kokwan so o de 10,000 ko ye de ti emwa because at least obi cry to come to make it over $400,000. No be okita $400,000 or the kokwanso for spare parts. Na sa oka chia na sa woman 10,000. E dey no de koye e peanut. Entimi koye hwe. Enti sa asem na aba na oni e kasa directive ni de. Ye be sere se on san dwu ne hu yie.
Obeko amana no de dollar no beko. So na dollar no ebuo no. Ebi adam me ka se ma kwase me sika wo fence bank e dey kwato dollar accounts. Na dollar accounts na me dey kwato no. Me ko yi ni convert it to cedis. So no me say you see in this cedis no. But I know the area na emu owiram kakra. But once I know me dey call on na akwato ade. They say the same dollar no mama.
The auto parts dealers have meanwhile displayed red bands to register their displeasure against the new measures. There are also reports the dealers gave government a February 25 deadline to review the new directives or they will close down their shops. But the Abosokan Spare Parts Association has debunked such reports, although it is still protesting the measures by the central bank.
When we travel outside, we don't purchase from one shop, we hop from one shop to the other, and in case you make a transfer into the account of one person, when you travel outside, that means the person is supposed to dictate to you the items that you have to buy, which means you are supposed to buy everything from his shop because the money is now deposited in his account, you see. And we think those measures are not in the right direction. At least for small scale enterprise, we are not calling for too much. At least even if we are allowed to take about maybe $50,000 or $60,000 as cash, reverse when we are traveling, I think it's enough. But for the multinationals or the big firms, you know, they deal in a very, very huge amount. So those measures can be applied to them.
They, however, plan to meet the Ghana Union of Traders Association to take a final decision on the next line of action after the display of red bands in protest against the Forex regulations. Abigail Adamakwentri for Joy News.
And that'll be all from me. My name is Abigail Adamakwentri. Sports is up next.
Time to find out what's actually top of the agenda in the world of sports. And the National Sports Authority say they have resolved the venue issue for the Black Queens' second leg African Women's Championship qualifier against Burkina Faso. This comes hours after the national female soccer team were denied access to the stadium because it was rented out. The Black Queens had arrived at the Crossport Stadium this afternoon to train ahead of their African Women's Championship qualifier against Burkina Faso, but were however unable to descend from their team bus as the field was already occupied by a school activity without their notice. Worst of all, a grand stage is being mounted on one half of the pitch to be used for a non-sporting activity this weekend. Coach Yusuf Basigi was left to make several calls to management members of the Black Queens for remedy. It's however unclear why the Black Queens were made to arrive at the stadium to train without knowing the facility was unavailable. Even more worrying is the fact that the visiting team Burkina Faso are to access their Crossport Stadium for their final training session before the match. Meanwhile, the National Sports Authority has confirmed to Joy Sports the nation's CAP qualifier has been shifted to Saturday as a result of a clash with a non-sporting activity at the stadium. The Accra Stadium has been rented out to the International Central Gospel Church for an event on Sunday. This is the second time a national football team has been denied the use of the national stadium due to scheduling clashes with event organizers. Last month, the national under-20 female team preparing to host their Equatorial Guinean counterparts had a similar experience when they were compelled to delay their training for several hours because the pitch had been occupied by huge loudspeakers and other musical gadgets in preparation for a singles and married conference. The Black Queens hold a 3-0 first leg advantage over Burkina Faso. Now, the MTN FA Cup Committee has released confirmed fixture dates for the fourth round of matches in the 2014 competition, but indicate the FA's disciplinary committee is yet to conclude on pending cases. The FA Cup Committee has confirmed the protest filed by Royal Faith FC against Dawenya FC, winners of their preliminary round match between the two clubs, is still at the disciplinary committee. The winner of that protest will host Bazooka FC in a round of 64 match. The winner of the round of 64 match will then travel to Doma to play Adriana Stars in the round of 32 match. After these games are cleared, the eventual winner will play host to Bechim United in the fourth round at a date yet to be announced. The FA Cup Committee reserves the right to reschedule matches involving clubs in CAF competitions. The Sokol United versus Midiama SC and Brecum Chelsea versus Inter Allies matches may be rescheduled to another date. The outstanding round of 32 match between Ross Park and Ken Faisal will be played on 12 March 2014, of which the winner will host Takrady Bay's Metro Stars in the round of 16. 7 of the fourth round games have however been set for the weekend of March 22 to 23. Let's do some boxing now, and thousands of boxing fanatics and neutrals are expected to throng the Accra Stadium on 18th April 2014 to witness the grudge fight between Brian Makamoko and Ayite Powers. President of the Ghana Boxing Authority, lawyer Peter Zwenis, is confident the bout will rival world record set.
This fight has generated intense public interest, and the projections and indications are that it will break all the records. For those who were too young to remember, we can recall that when DK Poison fought Danilito Red Lopez at this same Accra Sports Stadium on the 6th of November 1976, there was a record crowd of 130,000, and that is captured in the Guinness Book of Records. And all indications are that this fight, if the projections go well, might surpass that record.
Okay, so we're looking forward to that fight. Is Ayite Powers up against Bukom Banco? We'll see what happens there. That's your sport tonight. I'm George Adi Jr. Have a good night.
Sports was butch. So what would you do if you found out that the woman you were about to marry in a day has fallen in love with another man. Pascal Amanfo, A's music director, seeks to find an answer to such a puzzle in his latest movie, Purple Rose. Purple Rose premieres on Friday, February 28 at the Silverbird Cinema with support from Multi-TV's Cine Afrique channel.
Life is a complicated path, a crossroad of destiny, fate, and fortune.
Purple Rose, it's good drama, basically romantic drama. Not a rom-com, certainly not what I'm used to making. It has a more serious theme than most of some of my previous movies, and it x-rays the life of a character called Annette, who comes into town to plan her wedding and bumps into this childhood friend who is also married and awaiting his wife to get back into town. They go on chance dates, 2 meetings, and then before they know, they trigger such a web of passion and conflict, and everything just takes their lives just out of the circle of normality. And then we have twists and turns before we arrive at what I would like to call a Purple Rose.
Purple Rose, interplay of interest, suspense, drama.
It's a love movie in its own class. It's not the regular love stories that we tell every time, and it brings relationships and love relationships. It looks at love relationships from different angles.
No matter how hard we try, there are some things we just can never understand.
Like my character, Dylan, I was married in the movie, and then because we had some issues, my wife and I, separation, not like this distance. We're separated by distance because of our different jobs and whatever. And I meet somebody who I all of a sudden just start to feel something terrific for, and then you get to question your own self, like I thought I was in love with somebody, I thought I'm married,
You be mine. I want you here forever. Do you hear what I'm saying? Gotta say how I feel.
Like most of my films, it's based on I think what I'm dealing with at the time and my own weird thoughts. That's why I like to use the expression of Pascal for imagination. I was trying to understand the role that destiny plays in our lives, and x-ray how we are parts are intertwined and then turned around, basically as we go on a journey through life.
And that's it for News at 8. Before we go, our headlines again. The Ministry of Health gives an ultimatum. Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital, 14 days to account for the corpses of 5 stillborn babies delivered there on the night of February 5th. And the Daily Guard newspaper has been ordered by an Accra High Court to pay 250,000 cedis in damages to NDC General Secretary Asiedu Nketia. National Association of Graduate Teachers casts doubt over the progressively free senior high school education policy announced by the president. And as the debate over genetically modified foods rages, civil society group Food Sovereignty Ghana wants government to engage the public more on the issue. And that's all for the news. My name is Stephen NT, and up next is PM Express with Nana Zakwao. Good evening.